Hey guys, I'm here to talk to you about how to create a budget when you have an irregular income. Now, I know a lot of you out there don't have a consistent income coming in every month. Some of you are in sales, you're commission based, or you're self-employed, and so you just don't always know what your monthly take home pay is going to be. So when it comes to budgeting, I get this a lot. People are asking me, what do I do? How can I plan if I don't know what I'm going to be bringing home? And so today we're going to be looking at that in a monthly budget and what to do with the variable expenses. So the key is, first of all, is we got to figure out what your monthly take home pay now is. Now I know I just said that it's hard to know, but we got to kind of get a baseline. And so, what I recommend you do is look back at the past 6 months and what was your worst month of income? In the past 6 months, what was the worst month you had? Let's budget based on that number because odds are you're not going to have a month that's worse than that. You're probably going to have better months. So we're going to budget based on the lowest number with the hopes that you're going to make more than that. Now, for this budget's sake, we're just going to, for simplicity's sake, pretend that it's a single income household and that the worst month over the past 6 months was $5,000, okay? Now, I know sometimes spouses, one of you has a consistent income, one doesn't. If that's the case, let's say one of you makes $3,000 a month consistently, and you look back and your worst month in the past 6 months was 3,000. Well, then you take the 3,000 plus your worst month, and you would have a monthly take-home pay of 6,000. But for this case, I'm going to stick with the 5,000 for simplicity's sake, and we're going to roll down this budget on those numbers. Now, you want to plan everything based on this income, and we're going to give each dollar an assignment. So every one of these $5,000 is going to be given something to do. So these budgets start out with giving and savings. I'm going to skip those for now. So I'm going to assume that we are in this budget person is in the phase of paying off debt. So that would mean that they already have a small emergency fund set aside and now they're trying to eliminate all the debt that they have. So if that's the case, then they're not going to be budgeting any amounts of money into their emergency fund at this time. Okay, so as I scroll down now, maybe they're giving to charity. So we'll come back up here. Maybe that's something that's important to them. So off the top, they give something. I'm just going to put $100. Let's just say that that's something they do. Now over here on my calculator, I'm going to keep a running total. So 5,000 was our take-home pay. So I'm going to take 100 away. Now as we roll down, let's start entering some numbers. Let's say the mortgage. Every month is $1,500. We'll say that this person does escrow, so that's going to include property taxes, insurance, and all that good stuff. All right. Repairs and maintenance. It's a good idea. We know things are going to break on the house. We know that the AC is going to go out at some point, or a roof is going to need repair, or a pipe's going to need to be fixed, or something. Something's always going on. Depending on the age of your house, it may be more frequent than not. But I recommend setting a little bit of money aside every month to something we call a sinking fund. What that means is it's just money you put in an envelope or somewhere that's set for this specific reason. Now you may not need this $50 every month, but it accumulates. So you stick it in the envelope every month, and then 6 months, a year, let's say a year down the road, something breaks. Well, you've been saving $50 a month for 12 months, so now you have $600 ready to go to spend on whatever that repair may be. All right, association dues. So let's say you have quarterly dues for HOA. We want to make sure we're budgeting for those. There's two options. You can either attack it whenever they come. So depending on the price, you can just set something in your phone or whatever that every quarter you just add in the full amount, or you can break it up. So let's say that your association dues are $90 a quarter. You can either put $30 a month aside and wait until it's due, and then you've saved $90. Or you can just wait till that month comes and just budget in the $90. It's up to you. For this sake, I'm going to go ahead and put in the 30, but you decide what exactly is best for your situation and your budget. Everybody's different and prefers it different ways. All right, utilities. Now, I know electricity, gas, water, those things are different every month. And so they're going to change. That's why every month is unique. We sit down and do each month differently. These numbers up here are pretty much going to be the same every month. So these are going to copy over, but we can't just put our budget on autopilot. January is going to be different from February, February from March, and so on. So we have to plan each month specifically. So electricity, if you get your bill ahead of time, so for example, my electricity bill at my house is due on the 5th of the month. So I usually get my bill a few weeks before the end of the month is over, the previous month. So I know when I'm creating my March budget, I know what my electric bill is going to be. So I'm able to put this specific number. If you don't, let's say yours gets drafted toward the end of the month and you don't get your bill until the month's already started. Well, just predict it as best as you can. Predict what you think it's going to be. We usually have a general idea of how much electricity we use. You can look at bills from this time last year. Use what you know to predict. So I'm just going to put in $100 for electricity. I know everybody's different on that one. Let's say for gas it's $50, and then for water we'll say $100. So if you're filling in your budget with me, you're entering obviously your specific numbers. So as I hit each of these categories, think of what your number is and go ahead and enter those in. If you're going along with me, that's a good idea to do that. Use the PDF I gave you and fill these in as we go. All right, your cell phones. So this is if you have, depending on how many phone lines you have on yours, whoops, not 1,500. Better add that 1,500 back in. I hope your phone bill is not 1,500. Let's try that for 150 this time. Okay, so phone bill, around 150 for this person. Again, put your number in. Internet, if you have internet, I'm going to put $50. And then if you have cable, you'll want to put that in, so $100. Make sure you put every expense in. A lot of these are going to be the same every month, so it's easier to get more specific with. So let's do that. All right, let's move on down to food. Food is a tough category. Groceries, planning groceries. If you've never budgeted before, it's sometimes hard to be able to put a number on how much groceries how much you spend on groceries. It's hard to sit down and say, well, we need this much. So what I recommend doing is thinking of it as a month, but let's go ahead and break it down by week. If you shopped once a week, what's your average grocery bill in that week? And then we're going to multiply that number by 4. So if you spend $150 in a week's worth of groceries once a week, $150 at the store, well, then we're going to go ahead and budget $600 for groceries. That's how much it would be for the full month. You need to decide what's a good number for you. Now, again, your first budget, I recommend budgeting a little bit high, and we can knock it down later. What we don't want is you to say, you know what, I can make it on $200 this month, and then crash and burn. We would rather over budget and then be able to have some money left over than to fall short and be scrambling to put some food in our fridge. So I'm going to put $600 for this person. Can't forget to deduct it. And then restaurants. Again, break this one down by the week. In a given week, how much do you spend on eating out? If you're trying to get out of debt, this is a great category to cut. So think of any sacrifices you can make, but for the sake of simplicity, in a week, if you spend $50 on restaurants, well then in a month, times 4 is going to be $200. You decide what's realistic for you and your family. We don't want to put it too low and not be able to reach it and not be successful. Set yourself up for success. Think of realistic numbers for restaurants as well. All right, clothing. Do you budget monthly for clothing? If you have kids, maybe that's something you need to be doing, a sinking fund, setting some money aside for those kids so that when back to school comes, you're not fronting a big bill. Man, I love hitting that 0 too many times, don't I? Let's put that 500 back. And now I'm going to take away 50. Okay, so 50 for the kids' clothing. If you need to buy yourself clothing, if you do any dry cleaning, things like that, that's going to go in here. Every expense goes in. Gas and oil. I know it's hard to predict gas and oil. This is the toughest category to do. And this is one where it's super important to over budget slightly because gas is going to fluctuate. The prices are unpredictable. The amount you're going to be driving is unpredictable. So it's really hard to know what you should budget every month. Every month's different. So over the next few months, you're going to get really good at knowing pretty close to what your number is. But my wife and I, we always have a little bit of extra money left in our gas fund because we want to over budget it a little bit. We don't want to under budget and then be scrambling, like I said before, to put gas in our car. So think about how many times a week you fill up. What is your average fill up number? And I would round it up to the nearest $5 number. So if you fill up once a week for $27, round it up to 30. and then we're going to multiply that by 4. So for this person, that would be 120. Now, if you have 2 cars and that's what you're spending, well, then 240. You decide. I'm going to put 300 here. You can round it up even more, especially on your first budget. Just like groceries, let's be more on the higher side, so that way we have a little money left over versus the opposite being true. Same with our house. We have to be ready for repairs and tires. Tires are going to blow on your car. A belt is going to break. Something's going to go wrong. That's the thing about cars, is they break. So let's do the same thing we're doing with our home. We're going to have a sinking fund. $50, whatever you want, a month into an envelope, so that when that happens, you can pay cash for it. Now, license, that's your registration. That happens once a year. Inspection. So if you have that coming up, you can put that in there. And then car replacement. If you're at a point where you know your car is going to need to be replaced in the foreseeable future, maybe this is where you start paying yourself a car payment or putting a little bit of money aside so that you can buy your next vehicle. All right, medical and health. Do you have medications that you have to purchase out of pocket? If so, that's going to go here. I'm going to say this person has $50 in medications. Doctor bills, if you have any that you can predict. Usually I know these are kind of unpredictable. We go to the doctor when we're sick. It's hard to foresee. So that could be a sinking fund, or you just really kind of deal with them as they come, and hope for the best. So you decide. If you know you're going to need to go to the doctor this month, put it in there. A good idea could be to put $100 in here. And if you don't use it, you can just put it towards your debt and save $100 next month. Or always have $100 set aside for your doctor bills, so that when you need to go, you have the money. All right, moving on down. So the same thing for these things. If you know you got to go, dentists are more predictable. Usually, if you have your cleaning coming up, that if that's out of pocket, you can predict that. Same with any eye appointments. All right, insurance. I'm going to briefly talk about life insurance here, because a lot of times I'm working with a client and they say, oh, life insurance, that comes out of my paycheck before I get paid. So that's already taken out. And so my employer provides life insurance. I recommend looking into getting life insurance outside of your employer, and I'll tell you why. If you were to get laid off and you had no job, when that job gets taken away, so does your life insurance. Now, let's say at some point between now and then, you come down with an illness that would make you uninsurable, and you lost that life insurance. It'd be pretty much impossible to get life insurance then on your own. So I recommend getting quotes, doing it outside of your employer. So that way, if for some reason you leave that job, which you will at some point, you still have that coverage on you. And usually the prices are comparable. To get some life insurance on yourself, depending on your age and your health, they're usually not terribly expensive. So I highly recommend looking into that. I know for myself, it's less than $50 a month for good term life insurance. So I'm going to put that into here. Health insurance is usually taken out by your employer, so you don't need to budget that. Now, I know where this is an irregular budgeting, so if you're self-employed and they don't, and you have to get it outside of your employer, or obviously if you're self-employed, you have to get your own health insurance from somewhere, then you need to put that in here. Now, if you're married to someone and you're on their health insurance, and that means it's probably taken out before the money comes into your account. So go ahead and decide where you fall into that category and make sure you budget for that. Homeowners insurance, if you do escrow, that's already included in the mortgage like I did on this budget. If you're a renter, if you don't own, you rent, then you should probably have renter's insurance. And if you do, put that number in here. Auto insurance, different for everybody. This is luckily a usually predictable one. So depending on how you pay it, if you pay it monthly, put it in there. If you're somebody who does it in the 6 month to a year premiums, you could set the money aside every month and be ready for it. I wouldn't wait till the year comes and have to front a huge bill. You don't want to front $1,000 bill. That might catch you off guard. It might throw your budget out of whack. So if that's the case, I would set $100 aside and save for it. Treat it like a monthly payment, but you just pay yourself and keep it ready. All right. Same with these other insurances. If you have those, make sure you're putting them into your budget. All right, the personal category has a lot of different things inside of here that may or may not pertain to you. I'm going to touch on a few of them. So if you have childcare, make sure you put that in there. Now, the ones I really want to look at are gifts. So if you have gifts, birthdays are big ones. Every month is different. So sit down. If you're budgeting for May, sit down and think, who do I know that has a birthday in May that I need to buy a gift for? And let's put that into the budget. Another thing to consider is holidays. If you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever at the end of the year and you buy gifts for those, start saving now and keep that money slowly building up instead of all at once freaking out and either charging it to a credit card or having a huge number in your budget in December. So I would take the numbers left from now until December and divide what you want to spend by the number of months. So let's say you had 10 months and you wanted to spend $1,000, which seems like a lot, but let's say you're going to spend $1,000. Well, that's $100 a month you're going to set aside to save for Christmas. So thinking of birthdays this month, I'm going to say this person's going to save $50 for Christmas, plus there's $50 for birthdays that month. So they have $100 total this month for gifts. Pocket money, consider that if you have a spouse or just for yourself. This is money to spend on you, on whatever you want. If you're out and you want a coffee, if you want to order something for yourself on Amazon, if you want to go buy yourself a new pair of shoes, whatever you're wanting to do, as spouses, I'll tell you, it's so nice when I order something online and the package shows up on the doorstep. My wife's not going, okay, what did you buy? Is that in our budget? She knows it's my pocket money. Likewise, if she goes out and gets a pedicure or buys herself something, I know that that's her pocket money, so she's not putting our budget in jeopardy, and I'm not putting our budget in jeopardy. So decide a reasonable number. This couple is going to do $25 a week, so that's $100 each, so I'm going to subtract $200. The last one I want to touch on in here is miscellaneous. This is kind of a catch-all category. This is going to catch any expenses that you just couldn't foresee. So anything before the first of the month begins, you weren't able to predict it, and suddenly, bam, it hit. And like, let's say your daughter comes home and she needs something for school tomorrow. She needs you to go buy an item that is like $20. Well, you couldn't have budgeted for that because she didn't tell you before the first of the month. So that's what miscellaneous is for. This is not a category for you really want to go out to eat, but you don't have any money left in your restaurant budget. No, it's not that. This is a try not to use it if possible. We want this money left over if possible. But if not, that's why it's there. It's there to catch the unforeseeable. Entertainment, if you do anything outside of restaurants and things like that you do for fun, going out to movies, all that kind of stuff, date nights, that's what would go in here. Usually this category is a little bit lower because most of us do restaurants and bars as entertainment. But if you have other things that you're thinking of, that's what would go in there. Vacations, if you're wanting to go on a vacation, saving a little bit each month for it instead of putting it on a credit card. So like I said, this person's trying to get out of debt, so they're not saving for vacation at this time. And then last but not least, we have our debt payments. So this is where we're going to put minimum payments for all of our debts. So car payment one, let's just say, is $300. Let's say they have a credit card of $50 and another credit card that is $40. And then we'll pretend like they have a student loan of $200 a month. All right. So this is their budget. They have a take-home pay of $5,000. And if I added all of these categories together, so the leftover was $230, so $5,000 minus the $230 that was left over is going to be $4,770 is the total. So there was $230 left over. We can't just leave this money hanging down at the bottom or else it's going to disappear somewhere. So depending on what your goals are right now, are you saving more money? Are you paying off debt? What are you trying to accomplish? That's where this money is going to get directed. So this 230, let's say if this person created a debt snowball, their smallest debt is this credit card one. Well, instead of a $50 payment, now they're going to make a $280 payment. And this becomes a zero-based budget. We want the balance to be zero down here. We want every dollar to have a plan. That doesn't mean your bank account gets to zero. That just means that we have planned for each dollar that's coming in. Now, like I said, this is for a variable expense or variable income. Let's say, because $5,000 was our worst month, let's say you just had a fantastic month and you made $8,000 this month. Well, you have an extra 3,000 to put toward whatever your goals are. So that's what we want. We want anything above this 5,000 up here on the top. We want anything above that to be gravy on the biscuit. We have taken care of every expense, every need, every necessity in our budget with $5,000. So any money we make on top of that is ours for whatever our goals are, for savings, for debt, whatever. That's a fantastic way to do it. Now, if 6 months down the road you have a bunch of really great months and suddenly you look back and you're like, wow, my lowest month over the past 6 months was 7,000. Well, let's adjust the budget. You're doing better, your business is growing, you're making more sales. Adjust the budget to 7,000 and go from there. So we don't want to always have it too low. You don't want every month coming out where you have thousands of dollars on top. But we also don't want to say we're going to bring home 8,000 and then only bring home 6. We want to be as realistic as possible. So that's why I always recommend going on that low end, and anything on top of that is gravy on the biscuit. So, but be purposeful with it. All that extra money is not extra eating out money. Make sure you direct that toward your goal. All right, guys, download the PDFs. If you are interested in an online one, I use EveryDollar as well. It's a fantastic resource. You can find that link inside the budgeting starter kit. Now, if you just found this video on YouTube and you haven't gotten into the budgeting starter kit, I recommend you do. There's a link in the notes. Go grab it. You can get all these PDFs. I have other budgeting videos on what to do if you have just a regular income. And there's lots of other resources in there. It's free. Just go grab it, join in, and you'll be right there. All right. Good luck with budgeting. Let me know if you have any questions at all. I'm here to help in any way that I can. Good luck.